Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm going to answer a question today about kung fu techniques in Wandering Heroes of Ogre. But first, I just wanted to let people know I have a review of Crippled Avengers at Shaw Brothers Universe. It's worth checking out if you like my reviews of martial arts movies. I'm going to have some more video reviews up fairly soon, probably after the weekend. I have two campaigns that I'm running, and I have to prepare for them for this coming weekend. So I haven't been posting as many videos because I have a lot going on in those campaigns. So what I'll probably be doing is on Monday posting some video reviews and then maybe posting some GM advice stuff. And today I just want to begin a series about Ogre Gate and questions people have had about it. The biggest question I've gotten so far is why are there 180 techniques in Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate? It seems like a lot, and it's true. That does seem like a lot. It's more than if you. My background is in martial arts, and I trained in Taekwondo, Muay Thai. I did some boxing. I've done all kinds of different things, and you're not typically going to learn 180 different techniques, and if you do, they're just minor variations on some very basic ones. This isn't an attempt to replicate practical martial arts. It's not an attempt to emulate more serious kung fu gritty style films. It's an attempt to emulate really high energy and borderline supernatural wuxia films. So movies and shows and books where characters are shooting rays from their hands, where they're flying into the air, spinning around. They throw down a blast of air that just knocks everybody to the ground. Uh, you know, pressure point techniques, really elaborate and not terribly practical maneuvers with weapons. Stuff that's maybe more the product of a creative imagination writing a novel rather than somebody who's trying to win a tournament or something. So things where there's a little bit of humor and play involved, and and it's just such an important part of the genre. So I mean, if you watch Return of Condor Heroes, I don't think I've ever counted, but there's they list off a ton of kung fu techniques just in that one series. If you watch, I did a review of 11th Son, constantly bringing up all these elaborate techniques that the characters are using, and they're not, and usually it's more about the name and the description of it, and they're just kind of like features of the setting that are important. So I wanted to capture that. Also, it's something that drives the plot of a lot of the stories and a lot of the movies where somebody has this powerful technique and you have to work your way around it. So something that's become really important to all my games is always having a new kung fu technique to throw at the players that they haven't seen before. So even though 180 seems like a lot, I can guarantee you after about a year of play, you're going to want way more. And that's why I encourage people to make their own techniques in the book, because that's when your campaign really starts to sort of be made in your image. That's when you're putting your imprint on everything. I've even encouraged people to scrap the techniques in the core book and make all of their own if they want. I think that that's really uh, a big thing that drives adventures. You need a large array of techniques to select from. You need to be making new techniques. And so again, while 180, again, it seems like a big number. It seems like, I mean, it's probably comparable to, the amount of spells you might see in a big fantasy game. It definitely is useful for the GM. And it's not as much about, well, I mean, the players like to have them too. I think it's just as important on the GM side uh, because the threats in a game like Wandering Heroes of Ogregate, they're only as good as their techniques. If I have a really high level NPC and the NPC's kung fu techniques are no good or not varied enough, or the players all have kind of figured out how to deal with them, then that character won't be as much of a threat. So again, I talk about this in the rulebook. I talk about the evolving landscape of the martial world and kung fu techniques and how, and again, this is maybe one aspect of real world martial arts competition I did bring into it, where there's a constant evolution, where something becomes kind of like a win button, like maybe there's a particular way of kicking or leading off in a fight, and then people adapt to that, and the landscape changes, and suddenly people are doing something new. So I pictured and you see this in wuxia movies too, and so I pictured it kind of like that, where uh, maybe plum blossom palm is a great technique early on, but it's not so great 8 months into the campaign when people have started to figure a way around it. So that's that was the idea, and I just thought it required maybe a little bit more explanation. I think when people pick up martial arts games, a lot of people come with a very clear idea what they want, what they think martial arts should be, and these techniques are not in any way an attempt to provide realistic martial arts techniques. I talked about this on the blog, I think, a couple of years ago. I might have done a video on it, but I don't remember. Basically, when I was working on Wandering Heroes of Ogre Gate, because of my martial arts background, it was actually a hindrance to me making a fun game. I would always make techniques and treat martial arts from the point of view of somebody that valued and understood, what a real martial arts fight or competition would actually look and feel like, and that isn't what my players wanted. They definitely did not want that at all, and it became abundantly clear to me the longer I tried to sort of push that. So once I said, okay, I'm going to step back, I'm gonna go back to some of these movies that I really like and watch them with renewed vision and open mind, and not think about it as much from my own background. And that's when I started to make the game that we ended up making. I think that was it was a really important step for me, because that's when I noticed my players started having fun. I started having more fun because I wasn't thinking, gritty combat. I was thinking, ooh, what's a really interesting name for a technique, and what's something fun I could describe to the players, and what's like what would be a cool counter to that. And it was just more creative, more inventive, more fun and energetic than what I was doing before. There's nothing wrong with gritty combat. I just found that when my players signed up for one of my martial arts themed campaigns, they weren't looking for that. They were looking for something a little more over the top, and so that's what we tried to do with Ogre Gate. And again, I think it matches the feel and look of a wuxia film or wuxia series really well. I really made a point of of emulating as much of it as I could. So if you like the film The Bride with White Hair, there's hair whipping techniques where you can use strands of your hair to attack people. Stuff like that. That's why there's 180 techniques in the game, because we have things that don't exist in real life. You can't whip your hair at somebody and pull them up to you. You can't do this stuff. But in a martial arts fantasy, you can do anything you want. So I just opened up those doors, and that was that was what made 180 techniques possible. And again, I think it's a real big driver of gameplay. So while that martial arts part of my brain that sometimes insists on really realistic and gritty combat, uh, wouldn't really permit me to do that in the past, I kind of lightened up, and it's I just think it's way more enjoyable this way. So that's the spirit that this is done in. At some point, I do want to do a more gritty sort of Bruce Lee style kung fu game, because I did go through a really long phase where that's what I was deeply into, and I have a friend that has been talking to me about some ideas for doing something in that style, but I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do it. So, but I'm definitely thinking of maybe doing something like that. But Ogre Gate is not that. Ogre Gate is is wuxia, which is much closer to, say, the superhero genre than than like a really gritty sort of Chuck Norris style martial arts movie. So anyways, that was just my thoughts. I'd received a lot of questions about that actually, so I wanted to give people my input on it. And also, just because if people pick up the game, I want them to know what we were aiming for before they get it, so that they don't pick it up and realize it's not what they wanted. So, if you have any other questions, feel free to send them to me. I'm going to try to answer every question that comes my way, and I'm also going to be running some tutorials starting this month. I believe I posted a link before, but if not, I'll post a link again. And until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.